Alright, so I know a lot of you who follow me on Twitter or generally just talk to me or have me come bother you in streams know that I will not shut up about Temtem. And you know what? Nah, I'm not sorry. And you probably clicked this video because you're curious about it, so perfect. Now we can talk about it. I'm going to show you as much about it as I can and talk about it from my own personal experience because that's all I've got. So I'd like to preface this by stating that before we dive into this, I come from a very limited Pokemon background, and that's just me being honest. I was more a Digimon girl, watched the anime, and played the MMO. The only fallback to Pokemon I can really compare this to is the new Pokemon Sword and Shield game and Pokemon Snap, where you take pictures of the different Pokemon. So yeah, that's just where I'm coming from with this, so don't eat me alive for getting things incorrect with the Pokemon references. With that being said, from the outside looking in, a lot of people are seeing a Pokemon-esque game, and you're not incorrect, but you're not fully right either. For a generalizing overview, Temtem is a game where you, the tamer, go out with your Temtems into the world of Airborne Archipelago. 6 unique floating islands, each having their own unique environments, Temtem to capture, and aesthetic feel. Your goal? To become the ultimate Temtem trainer. This particular game was created by Crema Games, which is an indie developer, and has some twists and turns to this take on the Pokemon genre that gives us players something most of us have been craving. This will be a game that people will be able to go in and actually play co-op in an MMO style game and tackle capturing, battling, and experiencing the well-developed story together. And to put this to the test, I brought along my guinea pig, STIX, for the alpha playthrough. He only died when the sacrifice was necessary. If you're looking to play the game, then it is launching January 21st into early access on Steam and the Humble Bundle store. There are future plans to have this game move over to console, but for now we have the PC. So first things first, character creation. Right out the gate, this game is establishing its own unique stamp on gaming. I was in the midst of creating my character and looking between body types when I suddenly discovered that my girl had a man's chest. I mean, what? Okay, hold up. This game is really going 2020 on me this early in the year? Yes, this game is extremely gender fluid. You can be a he, she, or them. And there are homosexual and heterosexual relationships placed about the game. I had no clue this was going to be coming at me, and I was pleasantly surprised that not only could I make my character cute, but it made an effort to include what others identify as. I feel this is pretty unique of Temtem because not many MMOs or games in general will offer this choice. This gives people of this generation a way of identifying more personally with the character they're playing. So after making my lovely girl, I also have to state that each new city you enter into will have a clothing store. Of the 8 cities with Dojos, you will be able to select from a plethora of outfits, hairstyles, and color options. They do come at quite a hefty cost though, as STIX will no doubtably attest to, as he may have been forced to trade me all the money he earned through Temtem battles to feed my insatiable thirst for fashion. Beyond the creation factor, you'll notice that the NPCs have fully scripted conversations with you, but verbally don't speak more than a sound, much like the Zelda games do. They'll even drop life lessons on you if you're actually paying attention and have different responses depending on your choice of conversation. I'll let you guys find these funny little nuggets on your own though. As for the Temtems themselves, each one has their own unique elemental affinities, and just generally by looking at them you can get a gauge of what type they are. The combat between them is pretty much a rock paper scissors combat system, with one type being more effective for a specific type and weak against another. You'll also need to be aware that if you use up your stamina of your Temtem fighting, it will injure your Temtem and could cost you the battle. This makes for a much more strategic, tactical combat, as it requires you to make plans to combat specific enemies in advance. Like Dojos, which generally have a single type of Temtem and therefore require specific combinations to combat them. Speaking of Dojos, each major city has a dojo along with a dojo leader that gates progression behind defeating them. Each Dojo also has a fun minigame you're required to pass to make it to the dojo leader. And I'll admit, they were a fun little addition to the game. You're presented with 3 types of Temtem at the beginning of your adventure, much like the main Pokemon games. You'll also need to choose for your starter Temtem wisely though, as your type will likely affect the overall difficulty of the game. From there, you'll go out into the world, complete quests, and capture more Temtem. You can also breed your Temtem, much like in Pokemon. As far as I can tell, there is a maximum of 3 evolutions to a Temtem, but we'll have to see upon release or later on in the future what happens. You'll also have 6 Temtem for your main squad. However, if you pair up with a partner like I did, you'll find that you'll be faced with the difficult task of choosing what 3 you want in your squad. And let me tell you, STIX and I had literal debates on whose cuter fire type got to stay in the party and evolve. I, of course, am still reigning champion. The co-op within the game itself is just utterly, without a doubt, together. Most games advertise themselves as MMOs or co-op, but you have so many solo instances that you travel into you wonder what's the point. But within Temtem, you can experience the whole story together. And should one of you run into a wild Temtem while going through a bit of grass, you best bet you're going to be dragged halfway across the map to experience that battle too, whether you like it or not. The only frustrating thing I see about that is if you go into a shop to buy something real quick or you want to investigate something real quick in a separate house, your buddy is going to come along with you unless you break party. So for better or for worse, if you're in a party, you're going to be doing it together. You can also heal one another's Temtem or choose to send out your partner's Temtem while in a fight. I'll admit that I initially kept making this mistake as I'd send out STIX's Temtem thinking it was mine and getting it damaged. As for the solo experience, by all means, this is very doable, and we saw a lot of alpha testers out there soloing it and having fun on their own. As you're running throughout the world, you'll run into lots of other players, and you'll also have the ability to fight them in a friendly spar of Temtem. No one would accept my requests, but alas, one day maybe someone will be bold enough to fight me. And other things to do besides battle Temtem include a few things not yet added or things I didn't get to experience yet is building your own house, going to an auction house to trade Temtem, Luma Temtem, which are similar to the shiny Pokemon, and also ride them out. So I think it's safe to say that we'll have plenty to do once this game releases in a few weeks. And on that note, I feel like since this game is an MMO, Temtem is gearing themselves up to last a long time. Pokemon have made each of their games rather finite, whereas Temtem, they'll have the ability to expand on this particular game much like most MMOs do. And within just the alpha itself, STIX and I probably spent like 30 plus hours playing the game, and that only included 4 dojo leaders out of 8 planned upon the full release of the game. So I'm thrilled to say we'll be coming back to play the game when it launches into early access because I could not get enough. I found this to be equally if not more addictive to play than Pokemon Sword and Shield, and one of us will be likely doing an updated video on the game as soon as it has a more completed version available. That's all for now. I look forward to seeing you guys in game. Perhaps we can have a friendly spar if we run across one another. And if you have any further questions that I can possibly answer for you, leave it in the comments below. This was Mrs. STIX signing off for now. Bye!
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through.